On this week's podcast, we got some interesting announcements coming from Hasbro and their games.
Then it's our topic of the week, hidden roles. We're going to take a close look at one of our favorite game mechanics and what works and what doesn't work. I'm Jonathan Estes.
I'm Will Keeler, and this is the Roll for Crit podcast.
In case you didn't know, the 80th anniversary of Monopoly is coming up soon, at least in France. I think it might have started in America earlier. But Hasbro has decided to do something special for the occasion. And in France only, so sorry, this is only for French people who happen to be watching this, they are going to be randomly putting real money in place of Monopoly money in some copies of the game Monopoly.
Wait. I thought French money was Monopoly money.
I know, so that's what I always think. You're thinking of Canadian money. But no, well, it's by real money, I mean, of course, euros and then like. But yeah, and in fact, one copy of the game, most are just going to have like 20 euros or whatever. One copy, the very special secret copy, all of the Monopoly money will be replaced with real money, which is really, and from my eyes, kind of a scam, because then if you want to play Monopoly, you got to go out and buy another copy because you don't have any of the Monopoly money.
I think most people would be fine with that, Jonathan.
I would be disappointed. I'd be like, oh, this copy is ruined.
I literally imagine everyone opening side that it's you. Oh, man, now I got to throw this out and just throw out the entire thing.
I wanted to play Monopoly. Anyway, it's sort of I wonder if they will do anything like that here, because it's actually a pretty weird idea.
I mean,
it will definitely drive sales up.
It will. In fact, I think it'd be really sort of terrifying. See, it's just because, I mean, we see what people do on Black Friday. Can you imagine people just like, I want these 6 Monopolies?
Yeah.
And just everyone fighting each other in the toy aisle. Meanwhile, you're just going over there, I just want some packs of like Pokemon.
And there's some, a guy who owns a Monopoly factory and makes all his workers open every box to look for the money.
Of course, and then they go to
the Monopoly factory.
So the question is, what do you think would be people fighting more over the Monopoly or the people fighting over the Nintendo Amiibos?
It'd be a tough.
Just in Target, we'll just go in there. We see 2 brawls. We're like, one near the video game and one near the board game section. And then they'll get big enough they'll combine. No one will know what they're fighting over, and so it's like, yes, wait, what the hell is this? Lucario?
Basically, don't do this, Hasbro. We've determined it will only cause disaster. But I thought it's pretty hilarious.
Oh, it is.
So if you're in France, maybe keep on the lookout for that kind of a thing.
All right, so moving on. The publishing companies Portal and Stronghold Games decided to join together to republish Portal's game, Stronghold. In this game, you have one group or one player playing as the attackers, the other as the defenders. This is a new edition, new printing. A lot of it, they haven't told us all the changes, but a lot of it seems to be streamlining it to make it one shorter, so like the attackers get to start apparently with guys on the field, as well as changing the point system and the rules to make it a little bit easier to understand to get through the entire game. The game itself is pretty much the defenders are most of the boards, the castle itself with the outer realm, with the defenders working on trying to repair the walls and repel the attackers. Meanwhile, the attackers are training their troops and using black magic and making war machines to try to destroy the castle. Pretty basic and interesting mechanic. Cool second new printing. Everyone's excited about it, at least for the company standpoint.
Yeah, I know it's from Ignacy, who did Robinson Crusoe and Imperial Settlers, so it's awesome. I was excited for one of his games since I haven't played it, the original. And yeah, it just sounds fun. I love it's like Lord of the Rings battle style kind of.
Isn't that similar to Castle Panic or?
Well, Castle Panic is co-op. I'm pretty sure it's like. Okay. But yeah, other than that, it's sort of thematically, yeah, a little bit. But yeah, so I'm excited, and it's good for them. Kudos to them for realizing the branding that they needed to work with Stronghold games to.
Well, not that. Can you imagine Stronghold games like, man, I wish we had Stronghold games. Then bro, yes.
It's kind of like DC having Captain Marvel or whatever before they switched over. Yeah. Right. Anyway,
but the best thing now they can do Stronghold. Buy Stronghold.
Yeah, I mean they only need to they save on printing ink because it's just one label on the box.
They literally just put their giant logo on the box.
So I'm excited for that. As for games that are already out, Fantasy Flight announced something that's pretty exciting. If you're a fan of X-Wing, which you probably are because everybody is, they are going to be finally putting out playmats, official playmats for X-Wing that they make in-house. And these are going to be the nice 3x3 slipcover with the grippiness, like the mats, I know,
actual play mats, like I know a lot of card players use.
Right. And that we loved so much that they used in Alien Legendary
Villains, and I think some other board game. It's been something, a trend we've been noticing because, first of all, they usually Smash Up the promo. We forgot that, which we haven't used yet. I'm a little disappointed. We should try that later tonight. I think we've noticed. I think we're going to use Legendary, for example. We always use, but in this one it works really well because the Legendary base had a folding board game, while Villains had it rolled up. And what we've noticed in the Legendary one, while we have played it more than Villains, it you saw wear and tear really early on, if I recall.
I don't know, the Villains.
Not Villains. I'm talking about the folding board.
Yes.
No, I'm talking about the folding board.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
No, the rolling one has not.
Right. No.
I know plenty of people because I once again playing Magic. People have had their own mats for a long time, and they rarely show wear or maybe a little fraying at the edge. But compared to the board game, Legendary, sometimes you feel like it's gonna peel.
Right. Yeah. And of course, we play the game a lot.
Yes.
And of course,
we have to state that. But once again, comparing the two, we can see that.
And for X-Wing, it's so easy because that's a game where you need the specific length. You have to really section off a part of the table. So very convenient. They used to have the tile sets, which they discontinued. This is where they're going forward with, and their official tournament play there. So there's two. One is just space, generic, you can use for anything. One has the Death Star on it, so you can if you want a more thematic look to it. Mm-hmm. But those are cool.
Do they actually make a difference?
No, only in terms of. I mean, if you could add rules.
No, but I mean, okay. But I meant it's not like there's a special Death Star mode that in which if you're on the Death Star, -3 movement. I don't know.
Not inherent to the playmats.
Because that would be cool if they could add. What if they actually added an asteroid belt one in which your movements decreased or only in certain areas?
Yeah.
I think it has a lot of potential. I'm definitely sure people loved it because actually I know when we were I think it was Gen Con, I want to say. There's these big tables that would have you can put a star mat for if people played X-Wing or the Star Trek. And like we said, maybe if you're into the Star Trek attack wing, you can probably still buy the star mat.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's multi-purpose.
Definitely. That's why I like the mats for Magic cards. But once I do Magic but any game you have because really you can use it for anything. You just get a mat that has an image you really like.
So I think you can get these on Fantasy Flight store now, but we're probably going to get some to carry in our store soon, and so be on the lookout.
Yeah. Continue on with that. Going back to where we started with Hasbro.
It all comes full circle.
A while ago, we talked about the Hasbro Family Game Channel, in which they're trying to take a lot of their games and make digital versions of them. And Risk is no exception. They have just released a Risk, the digital version, for Xbox One and PS4, because you really need those high-def graphics for Risk. Oh, yeah. Well, I guess in this version they do, because they've been trying to make it a bit more high-tech. It really reminds me sort of playing the Tiberian Sun or the really newer versions of Red Alert. Trying to make a more digital map, sort of what you expect if you were in a war, not super futuristic war room, but when they try to put a few years ahead war,
right? Near future.
Yeah, near future. I think that's actually the description they use. Yeah. In it allows for offline and online mode, which we think is great because we got the digital Catan, which one of the things we were annoyed about, though I guess in some sense you were forced to because you have hidden hands that you can only do online.
Right.
But another thing that's interesting is there's apparently, I think it's called Iris. It's a little computer that you can use for help. It might tell you who to attack and stuff like that. They also include some other game modes, you actually have secret missions. Maybe you take over these specific country or
continents, countries.
No, not. I assume it's the smaller thing.
We haven't played a lot of Risk.
Well, no, I mean I don't know if they still take over a whole continent or specifically or just countries. Their secret missions. Right. Also, take over all the capitals in the city. So you may win. You may not control everywhere, but maybe if you control DC, London, so on and so forth.
Interesting. Yeah.
And it looks nice, we should say, of course. It's definitely something to look into if you're into Risk.
So that's on PS4 and Xbox One.
Current.
But, yeah, I believe it's coming to PS3 and 360 as well.
Yeah. It does also, I should say, has you can join like not ranking systems, so you can play with other people, obviously,
right.
which is cool. The one thing I'm curious about, and I didn't see, is whether you take your turn and you can walk away and wait until someone else takes their turn.
Oh yeah, probably not since it's
on
a console. Yeah.
I mean, I assume if it's a tablet, you could, because I do like that because there's a lot of times.
Maybe though, because PS4 and Xbox One have decent background capabilities.
They do, but usually you shut down, like it's to go to the menu.
Yeah.
Granted, I'm talking PS4. I played with the PS4.
I think they're like the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I assume, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
But definitely looks interesting. I mean, if you're into Risk, once again, definitely check it out.
This will be for you.
I don't recall a pricing on it.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm sure it's not expensive.
Probably not. Hopefully we'll wait for the collector's edition in which one random box comes with an actual tank.
Yes! That's what I want.
Actually, no, the actual gun. Get yours and it'll come with an actual handgun.
Oh man, the possibilities are endless.
Can you just imagine some kid opening and there's just a handgun in the box? Oh god. We digress.
We really do. We digress so much that in fact we're going to digress into our next section, which is Kickstarter Pickstarter.
So my pick for this week is Gondola, coming from Soljar. In this game, you are racing gondolas in Venice. If you don't know, that is a city in Italy where pretty much all the roads are water.
If you're gonna race gondolas, that's where you do it.
I wonder if they even exist anywhere else. That's like, I knew when someone says gondola, that's always where.
There's some states in the lower part of the country they have gondolas.
In the lower boot?
Yeah, go on.
All right. Anyways, so the way the game works is there's a starting tile, like column, I guess. I don't know if it's one piece or multiple. It looks like one piece. But then you each get a hand of tiles, and you're going to start placing the tiles, in essence, building Venice, almost.
Okay.
So it's almost as if like you don't know where you're going. And then on the tile, tell you how many spaces you can move, how many spaces you're allowed to move, like because the current, like you can't move faster than this. Huh. Also, certain tiles can only fit a certain number of people. So like it could be like a smaller area pretty much or a larger one. And there's also checkpoint tiles. Because the whole point is it's a race. You have to try to find all the checkpoints to get through them. And the first person to get through all the checkpoints win. I really like this because off the bat, if you were to tell someone you expect, it's just a straight roll to die, move forward. But because it's tile placing, the map changes constantly. And because of also like all those determining factors, you could find a checkpoint like, I could reach the checkpoint, but maybe because where you are, you can't move that fast. You might not be able to get there.
That actually sounds really cool. I didn't know. All I knew was, like you said, it's gondola racing, so I wasn't that into it. But that's really a smart way to do it. So it's not just to the finish.
No, because you don't have the same finish.
Right.
What's also interesting, if you think, I'm not sure, but maybe there's a way to actually reach other people's checkpoints too.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know.
But I think it has a lot of potential.
Yeah,
it looks like a lot of fun.
That sounds cool.
Like I said,
and it's
currently it's $35. However, as of checking up recording this video, the early bird special for $30 is still out there. So
so be on the lookout.
Yeah, but like we've said before, Betrayal on the House on the Hill and another game which I kicked back a while ago. We like the idea of the tiles setting up the board because it really provides sort of this exploration kind of and randomness that makes the game completely different. So I think this is a great way to take advantage of that. Sure. With a theme I was not expecting. I've never thought of gondolas racing. I usually think a nice, slow, romantic. And the box,
smart though.
Yeah, and the box cover now, I just see them like they're racing, like yes, forward.
Because it's more like strategic if it's gondolas as opposed to just cars or whatever. Because because it is slower, you have to the currents and stuff. That's cool.
No, because that makes sense with the currents, and also I also like the fact that because it's the checkpoint, sort of makes sense. Sort of like this sort of weird game of tag. Well, I guess not with the people, not tag, more like what's it called? When you have to find a list of objects to find.
Scavenger hunt.
Scavenger hunt. Like you have to find these spots.
Those are pretty different things.
Yes, they are. But I think it's interesting. I like that a lot because it's not straight. It's not always left, right, left. It's not or circle course. It can go anywhere.
Anyway.
Yeah. So I'm rambling, but that's Gondola. So check it out.
My Kickstarter pick this week is called Time Cellist. Let that sink in for a minute. It's an RPG where basically it's almost takes like an 80s Saturday morning cartoon type of plot. You're a bunch of kids and you are going back in time to different time periods, many different time periods, whatever you want, really. And you're trying to stop an evil criminal. I forget his name, but it's something with alliteration. It's the something Maestro. And he goes back in time, and he's messing things up, and you and your friends have to go back and try and stop him. It's from Wheel Tree Press, and they cite inspirations such as The Goonies and Doctor Who.
Well, we should mention, aren't you with the Time Cellist?
Right, of course. The Time Cellist is like the superhero, and you're like his sidekicks. Of course, good point. And it's supposed to be accessible to adults, but also for kids. So it's like a good one to have for families, kids, and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, like you said, it's 80s, 80, early 90s morning cartoon idea.
It's clearly got that goofy kind of...
No, I mean, when you first showed it to me, it was pretty much sort of the idea that came up, like when you said, and I think it's a great idea. I love it.
And actually... I was going to say, I forget who the name of the artist is, but you can look it up. But they had some sample stuff of his work who's going to be doing the actual art for the book, and it looks really nice.
So this is an RPG,
it's a role-playing game, no board or cards, just a book. But it's $10 gets you the print version.
That's really good.
$5 gets you the digital version. So
yeah. Do you make the kids, or are they preset kids?
I think you have some kind of a character, creating tool.
Because I think that'd be interesting. Because it sort of reminds me, it could go the same way, like, God, why am I forgetting it? The Fantasy Flight RPG that just came out.
End of the World?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. I mean, really, it's an RPG. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, but I mean, like that sort of idea where I feel like you could really have a lot of fun by being like, okay, what was I like as a kid? And that could be my stats. Like, that could be actually really cool.
Yeah, that could be fun. That would be fun.
And even if you have kids, I think a great way, because it's time travel, for some reason, what popped in my head was those old Leap Blaster games and stuff, because one of them was like, someone screwed up time, and you had to go back and fix it, so you had to learn about it.
Like Carmen Sandiego had a time travel. Yeah, it's educational.
And I think you could do a lot. It sounds like a great way. And also, like you said, having names like the Time Cellist and also the Maestro are hilarious.
Time Cellist. How can you not love it? It had a pretty low funding goal, and I think it was already just about there. So check it out. It seems cool.
Yeah. Definitely a place to look for RPGs. But I think that's enough now for our Kickstarters. It's time for our topic of the week.
We may or may not have mentioned many times on the show, if you've been watching, how many of our favorite games feature the mechanic of hidden roles.
Really?
I don't, honestly, because none of our playbacks have, so far, I think, have been our hidden role games. So, it's possible you missed it. But that's what we're going to talk about today. Games that we love, like Battlestar Galactica and The Resistance. Basically, any game where someone is either playing a traitor, or I think we could extend it to simply someone having a secret goal that is hidden from the rest of the group. And many, many examples of this. Recently, Dead of Winter had it. Of course, there's, in smaller doses, games like Coup or Operation Faust, which we did do. But the meat of it, I think, is that the Cylon or spy type thing.
Well,
where someone's a bad guy and no one else knows.
That is the common one, which while it's still good, I think we'll talk a little later. We'll talk about that first, but I think there's actually some interesting ones that sort of have that, like you said, there are secret goals.
Right.
That add, I think, make it even
branches
better.
it out a little more.
Let's focus first on the bad guy.
Yeah, well, I mean...
I think...
No.
I think the best one to start with is The Resistance. That's literally what it is. That's nothing else.
Or, of course, we didn't say Mafia, Werewolf.
Right.
Same deal.
They all rely on the same principle. Everyone's there. Someone or people are bad guys, but no one knows who.
Or maybe only like one or two people know each other, two or three people. Yeah, there's definitely... I mean, for me, I just love that mechanic so much for a couple of reasons. Mainly, it easily pulls you into the atmosphere, the theme of the game. That, like... A lot of games try to do the thing where they create the theme through the mechanics, and lots of them do it well, some don't.
Right.
But that's such an easy way to, if you're a Cylon, you instantly feel like a Cylon or a spy.
And if you're in that game and you're not, you're instantly paranoid.
Yeah, that's both sides having fun. And
I think another thing that's, like we said, the reason why we said these games that we just listed, that's it. Mm-hmm. That's all you need. It's easy to teach people, and everyone's already into it.
Right.
And it works also well depending on your friend group. For example, Resistance, we're going to be saying each other's the bad guy no matter what.
Oh yeah, there is a danger in some of those games. Well, in really any game, depending on your group. If you're us,
yes.
of spite and hatred occurring. Do you have a preference? Do you usually like to be on the bad guy team or the good guy team?
I'm torn because. Well, I'm looking at Resistance right now because that's the one we've played the most.
That's sort of the.
Compared to Werewolf and Mafia, which are different. Because in Resistance, really, I'd say there's 3 roles. There's bad guys. There's good guy who doesn't do anything, and then there's the good guy who knows all the bad guys. But if he gets caught, you lose.
Right. Depending on which version you're playing, of course.
Right.
There's a million variants now.
I really like being the good guy who doesn't have to do anything because I don't have to think. But being the bad guy is nice too because you know.
Well, in a way, it's sort of a different. Like when you're a bad guy, there's pressure because you know everything you're doing could be judged.
Right.
Which is true. But as a good guy, you can kind of sit back and say, okay, and you can more impartially look at everybody.
We should know another big thing about if there's multiple bad guys. Is knowing how to communicate with your team.
Or how not to communicate
right,
with your
like
team.
let's say someone taps you on the foot. What was that again?
I almost want to save this for the Resistance when we play it, but there was a time when my bad teammate in Resistance, you can put in a fail vote. But if 2 people put in a fail vote, then they know 2 of you are spies, which is bad because you want them to be in the dark.
Right.
So he taps me on the foot, but I'm sitting there like, I don't know what that means. I thought that meant for me to fail it. But he also failed it.
And it pretty much gave away the entire party.
So I'm like, we gotta have a system here. If you're gonna tap me, of course, I'm sure some people are saying, that's against the rules. You shouldn't be allowed to do that.
No, I think so. You can always have hidden things.
Because
it's up to people to notice them.
Yeah, exactly. If someone else can catch you on it, then it's fine.
Right. It's not, as far as I know, there's nothing in the rules about secret messages. Right. For all you know, you can be texting each other.
Right. But if someone's taking out their phone, you're going to probably be suspicious. But there's something about that when you are the hidden person, there is definitely a thrill that you don't get from any other kind of game.
All right. So before we go to what I wanted to talk about, let's take the step up of that with Battlestar as the example, in which it's not just the traitor mechanic. There's a lot more going on.
Right. There's more to it. Well, that's definitely... that's one thing that can be tough, especially if you're... Actually, Betrayal we did play. That has a traitor mechanic. Sort of. Not hidden, but sometimes it is.
On one scenario in which you played,
Depends
I did
on the
not.
Scenarios. I think there are a few that are hidden.
Right, but you played one that's hidden. I
right.
did not.
But anyway.
Yes.
What was I about to say?
I was talking about Battlestar, and you said like the problem.
Right. Well, it's hard to teach new people.
Right.
Because you want to make sure... Like, once you're locked into the game, if someone asks a question about being a Cylon, you know. So that can be... In heavier games, it's definitely a fine line to walk.
Well, right. And also, sometimes they may ask, can I attack my own Vipers?
Yeah, as has happened to us. And you're like, gee, that's an odd question. Why'd you ask that?
It's interesting because what that one also did, which... It's almost, I want to say it's a combination of Resistance and not Avalon. Why am I blanking? Arkham Horror. Is it throws in the traitor into a game which is already trying to bring dread and horror onto you.
Right.
Like, because all the choices usually, because you're trying to just survive.
There's a lot of dread and horror in that game.
So throwing a traitor in that is just the most stressful thing. In a good way, in a very good way.
Yeah, it can be a real...
We've had to play that game to walk away and take a break afterwards.
Yeah.
Though, oddly enough, I think every time we've played, one person's always the Cylon.
What do you mean? Oh, you mean the same person always is. Yes.
And I think that, because that just reminded me of something, which will bring us nicely to our next point, when it's not as much the traitor as much as secret objectives. Mm-hmm. The idea behind secret objectives is maybe not someone's trying to make you lose, per se, but they have their own thing, and maybe it makes them look bad.
Like Dead of Winter is the
obvious one, but I want to stick with Battlestar actually.
Oh yeah,
because the expansion had these super Cylons,
the Cylon leaders.
Cylon leaders.
Yeah.
I've played it once. I don't know if you've done it again.
I think we just did it once.
I was the Cylon leader that time, and my goal was actually good for the humans. Like I wanted you guys to win. but no one listened to me because I'm the Cylon leader.
Right. It's very tricky to be in that position.
But I think that it was good though in that, because I think we learned now, like, okay, maybe we have to you have to actually worry. What's the silent leaders?
Yeah, I think that's the best logical step from just a traitor, because after a while you do get the idea of, oh, he's bad or he's good. So having those nuances of, well, I'm not bad, but I do need to keep this food from you.
No, and that's where Dead of Winter just shines.
Yeah.
And not only, first of all, the story cards we already love, the Crossroads.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens is everyone gets a card that could either say they're the bad guy. What do they call it? They have a term for
betrayer.
The betrayer, maybe something.
Yeah.
While everyone else gets a card with that as an objective. In the first time we played it, for example, I actually took over someone's role because you guys played the game earlier and then someone had to leave. And my objective was to have the game lose and hoard all the food.
Right.
However, you had an objective. What was yours again?
Mine was just to have the most cards, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
So the problem is everyone looks bad because they could be still trying to get food or something.
Yeah, it makes it very hard. You almost have to... It's almost like you got to make a decision, like, to win for the greater good and sacrifice your own.
Right.
But no one would do that.
I think it does a good job with that. Another one I wanted to bring up was actually, I believe it was last week's, your Kickstarter Pickstarter.
What was it again?
I forget the name of it, and they tweeted us.
Oh, Pretense.
Yeah, Pretense,
Sure.
thank you. Where everyone has the secret objective throughout the entire game night.
Right, that's a whole other level.
Which I think is, like we said, is really cool. It just brings up this whole idea. It's not just in that one game. You have to actually start thinking outside.
Right, yeah.
And that's why this hidden roles is so good, because you have to actually start keeping track of people. It causes people to actually have to interact, so it can't just be, I've done my turn, all right, I'm going to just take my phone out and just...
You got to pay attention.
Yeah. So I think that's another reason why we really love it, because it forces most people, we should say most people, to be actually in the game.
No, and just in general, hidden roles, I think, always do that, where it's... They force you to pay attention. They give you always something to look at, to do when it's not your turn, and they just add that extra layer of,
it's a little like Mario Kart and Smash Brothers. It tears your friendship apart and then builds it back together.
It's a team building exercise for half of you. The other half, or maybe not if you're always accusing your own teammate, and then it turns out they're on your side. But anyway, any final things you love or hate about?
I think
Traitor mechanic, hidden roles.
the thing I do hate about them
Yeah.
is, like I said at the beginning with the resistance stuff, because they're simple, it's usually what we're forced to play if we have like more than 4 or 5 people.
That's true.
But that's more of just, I think also our game library does not really support the large.
Yeah.
And that's a big problem. But at the same time, that's the same problem I have with both of us have with like Cards Against Humanity.
Right.
Apples. It's sort of like that one game everyone always took out.
Yeah. That can be an issue. Although I guess it's not specifically tied to.
No, but
it's more us.
No, but it's still close to because it is one that a lot of people know and
Right.
have ready. I think that, like I said, that's one of the biggest things I have a problem with. Otherwise, we've said we've
Anytime
enjoyed
a game says it has a hidden role mechanic, I'm always
like you mentioned with the Portrayal on the House of the Hill, he got to play a hidden role, which I'm so jealous, because it pretty much emulated the movie The Thing.
I think we talked about it in our Betrayal episode.
Right.
So it was
yeah.
great.
It adds to most games. It really does, I think, out of all game mechanics that I can think of, it really does shine in bringing what it does actually into the theme into the player.
Yeah, definitely. It really makes it feel like a real situation. Like the tenseness is real. It's not simulated.
No, especially in games like we said with Battlestar or something. There's like so much hatred.
Yeah.
And it goes beyond the regular ones. Like, I don't even start blaming you anymore. That's only Resistance. Battlestar, well, that's also because the one person's always the Cylon.
Anyway, if you have a favorite hidden role game or something you really like or dislike about that mechanic, we want to hear about it from you. You could leave a comment on this video, or you could send us an email. Our email address is rollforcrit@gmail.com.
And, of course, you can reach us through Twitter, whether it's our personal one, @rollforcrit, for the company, or our personal ones ourselves.
Right.
They should be around the screen for you to see. And of course, there's our site.
Oh yeah, rollforcrit.com. You can buy lots of the games we discussed today, such as Monopoly, X-Wing, Risk, etc.
Resistance,
Battlestar, some of our favorites. And we have more podcasts like this and some great playback episodes where we play games. And also, if you have an idea for a game you want us to play, or a question or a topic suggestion, we'd love to hear that as well.
Oh no, we just want to hear anything. We'll take it all.
So lonely. But I think that otherwise will do it for this episode. Yeah.
Before I must reveal,
yes.
I am actually Jonathan.
Well, after you reveal that you're actually Jonathan. Also, this weekend is the Munchkin World Store in New York City.
I totally forgot.
I know, I almost did too. We will be there, I think, on Friday, the 13th. Ooh, spooky.
Yeah.
So if you happen to be in the neighborhood, if you haven't heard the Munchkin Store, look it up. It's going to be there just for the weekend. Stop by and say hi if you're going to be there.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm actually Will Keeler.
I'm actually Jonathan Estes, or am I? And this has been the Roll for Crit podcast.